Hello and welcome to A Piece of String, the show that brings together comedians and scientific minds to ask and maybe answer the biggest of all questions ever. I'm Matthew Shrubman, I'm a chemist and some might say a biophysicist. And with me today are Josie Peters, an astrophysicist.
Hello.
James Wells, an engineer.
Hello.
And James Hartley, a doctor.
Hello.
Each of us will ask a question to which one of us secretly knows the answer, and points will be allocated on a tyro arbitrary basis by our producer, Sam Lee. The winner will get this cardboard square thing with a hole in the middle through which you can look through or around the edge of that I am holding in my hand. James Hartley, you got a question for us, mate?
I do. So my question, is could we / should we one day have invisibility cloaks?
Ooh, like a Harry Potter type scenario.
I guess so, yeah.
I was thinking James Bond.
I was thinking the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how did that work? It was like a camera on one side, right? And then the entire car was made of a screen, like a TV screen. So we're taking the image and then project it. Also from the other side.
Camera taking the image on the other side and
project
projecting it onto
on
the
that side. And you'd be like, whoa.
And it was just constantly adapting every time that it moved.
You've obviously got to make the camera quite small. If it's like a massive camera,
yeah,
why are those cameras floating around?
I think it's funny because everybody remembers the invisible car like it's like a really important bit of cinema in the last 20 years. But it was like in the real, like the dark days of James Bond where it was Brosnan and rubbish and...
Yeah.
The Brosnan age is like quite a good comedy Bond, really, isn't it? Like, I remember watching one recently with some friends who are doing a Bond show, and to Die Another Day or something, and there's some like military people in a submarine, and there's a switch that says peace, and then it's like wartime, and just like changes everything to battle mode, like as if that's like a plausible thing.
I hope there's a cover on that switch.
Or two people have to press it at the same time, at least.
Going back to invisibility cloaks, has anyone ever spent some good quality time with a mimic octopus?
If only.
Not yet.
We might be doing it right now.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was implying, James. Because they are just so good at mimic. They are basically like living invisibility cloaks, but not only invisibility, but like texture as well. They even get the texture right. You know, they mimic.
So they changed
texture.
just the appearance of texture, or they changed the actual texture of their...
I think they changed their surface to create an actual sense of texture. So they'll like sit on top of a rock and they'll make themselves not only look like the rock, but also
be a rock.
Yeah.
Do we not already have invisibility cloaks? Is the technology not there? Like in any way, shape or form?
So I suppose it depends how you define, it depends how you define visibility, isn't it? You can be like invisible to
camouflaged.
like radio waves and things like that, right? Because it just passes all the way through, for instance. So you definitely have surfaces on stealth planes, don't you, that I think let whatever the radar system is, right the way through. It doesn't reflect it back, I suppose, is what it is.
Glass looks like it's not invisible, but it looks like, well, it's kind of invisible, really, really clean, nice glass. Oh, do you know where they get the best glass from?
Where?
There's a really, what's the name of the island? It'll come to me. The island in the northeast of Australia that has like incredibly white sand, and only NASA are allowed to remove the sand, and they use it to make lenses and stuff.
Wow. No, I haven't heard of that.
You allowed to visit it, or is it like...
You're allowed to visit it, yeah, but you're not. But no one's allowed to remove any sand. The islands are called the Whitsundays.
Oh.
Remembered, kind of.
I mean, I think there's been a point probably for all of us where you've had a mirror that's been so clean, you've almost passed through it. Oh, not a mirror, a window. Mm-hmm. I had that. I was looking around a house once with my friends.
I thought you were going to say like there's a mirror that was so clean. I just thought there was another me in front of me.
I was trapped there for weeks trying to work it out.
Anyway, yeah, so I was thinking about glass and how obviously it looks invisible and kind of really transparent. But yeah, as James was saying, like there's some different frequencies that it won't be invisible to. So there is it's like UV. UV doesn't go through glass very well. So it looks to UV, glass is like a black surface that's definitely not invisible. So I guess we could, if we want to make people invisible, then we could either make people invisible or we could change everyone's eyesight in the world.
Oh.
That one sounds harder.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go back to the other one.
Much more of a faff.
Does anyone have a good way of doing this? Or does anyone know an answer to this question?
Well, I'm just going to put in an anecdote here. My dad was on a cruise recently and they were parked up in the Caribbean and Roman Abramovich's boat was nearby. He's got a very big boat,
It's got a boat,
as you
has
can
he?
imagine, yeah. And my dad was trying to convince me that the boat had properties about it that meant that you couldn't take photos of it. And was trying to, and he was demonstrating this to me by showing me what I can only describe as a selection of bad photos taken on a smartphone, where you could see the outline of a boat really far away. And he was trying to claim that it had some sort of shroud around it that meant that you could see through it.
Should we get him on the show?
I think so.
Let's get him in.
Big Paul,
Yeah.
he'd be up for it.
Can we take photos of him?
You can do. Yeah?
Will they not be shrouded?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Who wants science?
Yep.
Hey, mate. Enough about my dad.
It's me, the science lady. Well, your dad might not be so wrong. We've actually brushed on quite a few of the ways of which there could be invisibility. So there are 3 sort of main methods, I guess. So the only one that we didn't brush up upon is something called metamaterials, which they're called that because they don't behave like normal sort of organic materials would. What these materials do is sort of like channel the light around an object as if it's invisible. So you would sort of, because the light is not reflecting off whatever the object is. So say if we covered you, James, in some metamaterial, then the light behind you would then pass through and then be redirected as if you weren't there. So it would be as if you were invisible. So this does currently exist, but it only works for one specific wavelength at a time. So there might be ways to sort of maybe broaden this wavelength range in the future. Very small, and it only also works for static objects. So metamaterials exist, and that's the closest to like a proper invisibility cloak, but it's only very specific things that it happens with.
Is
at
a
the moment.
metamaterial just like a general name for a mysterious material? Because you know how like when light goes into a glass block, it bends, it refracts.
A metamaterial is one that doesn't behave like anything in the natural world.
Ah, cool. Yeah, I was going to say.
It behaves weirdly.
Yeah, because there was this other metamaterial I found that like light bends the wrong way, and it looks like light is speeding up inside it,
Ooh,
but it's
cool.
not. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Nice. But yeah, so that could be made from like really super thin wires of like silver and silicon, or maybe carbon fiber and silk. So that's like our closest to a cloak. Another is this thing that's been developed in the University of Rochester called the Rochester Cloak, which is actually sort of more of an invisible region where they've set up specific lenses. And so for that region, if you put your hand in or anything else, it would appear to be invisible. So which wouldn't really be useful in a cloak type situation.
Wait, from any angle?
Well, I think if you're looking like through the lens,
Okay.
or one of the lenses that they've got set up, it sort of redirects
Just
the
need
light.
to get everyone looking through lenses.
Exactly. But
Glasses, conspiracy.
like the cool thing about this is it could actually be useful for things like surgeons. So if you're going in to operate, you've not got your hands in the way because they'd be invisible when you're doing the operation, which would be really cool. Or blind spots for drivers when they're driving.
Oh, I thought it was like for surgeons who are so good that they like, just don't need to see what they're doing. Just get straight stuck in. Because it's just a distraction to see the actual organs that you're cutting into.
Quite helpful to see where your fingers are, though, isn't it? If you're a surgeon, would you just see like the end of your implement?
I don't know if you could choose. I think you could maybe have so that you can see whatever it is that you're operating on, and you could maybe see what's being pulled and stuff like that, but you may not see the fresh stuff that's going in front. But that is still, again, in sort of like, basic territory. That's only a very small region. It's still blah, blah, blah. We touched upon military not being able to see radar. Like the way that works is apparently there's sort of like it's covered in a paint that absorbs and dissipates the signal as heat. And that's why that appears as invisible.
Ooh.
Yeah. So military aircraft use that, which is cool. And then the last one talked about octopuses.
Octopuses. I keep getting in trouble for that.
Do you?
Yeah. Big trouble.
So like cephalopods, as the octopus belongs to a witch family, and chameleons camouflage in that way that they blend in and sort of copy their surroundings. And James, you said something about, you both said about in the James Bond film where they had a camera on the car and that made it invisible. This technology is actually already being used by the military on tanks and boats. So your dad's story might be true.
Might be true, Paul. Apologies.
So the point is that, yeah, it could exist. As for should we, Probably not.
I think not.
Imagine what you already do, what some people already do when they know people are watching. If you could do something without being watched, I mean, that's a
All
big
the reasons
philosophical-
would be bad, wouldn't they?
What if you're taking a ring back to Mordor or something?
Is there any good that could come from being invisible?
Yeah, when you ask people, like, if you could fly or stop time or be invisible, if people say they want to be invisible, you're always like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not a
like,
nice
are you just
person.
gonna?
Yeah, you're not my friend anymore.
You just always like when you like ask that to like teenage friends as well. It's always like boys being like, "Oh yeah, no, I could go to the girls' changing rooms," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh mate, no."
Yeah.
But I read that there was like
No, I mean, no.
there was like this interesting question that was posed like as a psychology thing, right? Being like, do intelligent people do the right thing because it is right, or because they fear being caught? So if you couldn't be caught, if you're invisible, would you still do the right thing?
Yes, I
think
would.
so, yeah.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah.
100%.
Should we? Probably not. Could we? Perhaps.
James Robert Wells.
Right, what came first? Orange or orange? Naranja or naranja? And why? Why?
Naranja.
I think it's Naranja. Yeah, mate.
Yeah. But
Wait,
you know,
what's the
we're all learning
nationality
here,
of
aren't
your?
we? Ooh.
What's the nationality
Well,
of your?
it's a great guest question
What's
from
the nationality of your
Alex.
girlfriend?
Barrow from Barcelona.
What's the nationality of your girlfriend? Of several
Yet
years.
to work that out, actually. I can't quite place the accent. So yeah, what do we think?
So a little bit of history of color words. So the old, first we had like black and white, didn't we? Those are the first words in language that
Or
appeared.
light and dark.
Hang on, really?
Yeah, so first they were like words for shades of things and like darkness and stuff. And then there was a period of time and then words. And then the first color that appeared in language was the color red. So a while before then it was just like, oh, it's the color of a cherry or the color of the moon. And they would just like refer to things like that. So yeah, color red came first, I think.
Guess, is that important because of red things are usually ripe things?
Yeah, exactly. Fruit and blood and all that stuff. And then there was like quite a bit of time, and then they got the words for green and yellow. And then there was an enormous bit of time before the word for blue started appearing in different languages. And like you can look at loads of different languages and their development, and they all have this similar kind of pattern. Blue is like a really late one. And obviously some cultures like never get the word for the color blue, like the old
Because
hymners.
some of them like related to when things are available with clothing as well, right? Because blue clothing was really expensive.
Because of the dyes to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like lapis lazuli.
And is it
Beetles.
it's the colour which appears least in the food that we eat?
Blueberry must be only one, right?
I think
But
so.
is it even blue?
Well, this is on the verge of blue, isn't it?
So that didn't answer the question, but it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It's interesting.
Did you know that in Spanish, the word for bridge is masculine,
Puente.
but in German, the word for bridge is feminine, and similarly, in Spanish, the word for sun is masculine, and the word for sun in German is feminine. And it's kind of, there are some people who've tried to draw links between the fact that it could be argued that Germany has a more equal society in terms of males and females. And you have these like powerful things like the sun and like a strong, sturdy bridge being feminine ideas in German. And in Spanish, they are more masculine ideas.
When did like words having a gender come about? Is that very old?
It's kind of a weird one. And I had a thought about this the other day. I was chatting to someone and he presented to me a very interesting thing, which was if you're talking about two different objects in a sentence and you change your pronouns depending on whether that one of the objects is feminine and the other is masculine, it means you know which one you're talking about without having to say what it is again. So it serves that sort of a purpose, you know, like saying he and she when you're talking about two people in a sentence, you'd know which one you were talking about. And it's the same when you're talking about a phone and some duct tape, etc. So that's kind of an interesting
And so when
added ability of the language.
Have you heard that thing about English adjectives where they all have to come in a certain order. So like you can have, there's this example online that you can have a lovely little old rectangular green French silver whittling knife. And that's normal, right? But if you mess with that word order in the slightest, it sounds really weird. So, for example, you might say that you have a rectangular French little silver old lovely whittling knife.
That was barbaric, Matthew. That was horrible to hear.
It's horrible, isn't
Yeah.
it? I don't know why, but it's something that as an English native speaker, you just pick up the orders to do the adjectives.
Yeah.
And what about, is it quite rare that we put adjectives before the noun?
Where we always put the adjectives before the noun.
Yeah. So the French, for instance, say cat blue or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a weird thing, isn't it? It's like, here's my object, now I'll tell you about it. Whereas we're like, let me build attention. It's a little bit like this.
Or
That's
even,
what it is.
Like in Spanish, you're always warned that a question is coming in writing, aren't you? Because you've got that upside down question mark at the beginning. Whereas in English, you're like, oh, it might be a question. And then you're like, whoa, it is.
And then you've got to reread it, yeah.
I found the order of adjectives. It's supposed to go, it's so hard to learn English as a foreign language. There's 9 that you have to get in the right order, and people learning English to like a really high standard will have to know this. You say your opinion, then you say how its size, or its length, or its height, or something, and then you say like a physical quality, and then you say its age, and then you say its shape, and then its color, and then its origin, and then the material it's made of, and then its purpose.
Whoa.
And
do you think we'd just do that instinctively then?
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you, okay, can we test this out at some point?
Okay, tell me as many
we'll write it
things
down.
as you possibly can about this final remaining piece of shortbread.
Which
Go.
you've now claimed by picking it up.
Sweet,
Carry on.
square,
Expensive.
Yeah.
brown, crumbly,
Sweet, square, brown, crumbly.
delicious.
Sweet, square, brown, crumbly, delicious. Everything was perfectly in order until you said delicious.
'Cause that's-
Sweet, square, brown, crumbly, delicious. Delicious sounds weird, doesn't it?
Sounds weird.
Yeah.
'cause I was-
Sweet is the opinion.
Yeah, you want to
Square
start
is the
with delicious.
shape. Brown is the color. And then crumbly is the material. You were right on track until you said delicious.
Yeah. God, we're clever, aren't we?
You are clever, James.
Thank you very much.
So what was the question we did? Oh yeah, what came first? The word orange for the color or the word orange for the fruit? And why is it that it appears the same in like all these different languages?
It's definitely the fruit first. So they called the orange an orange.
Someone got a little answer?
Would we like to know for sure?
I literally just said that to see if anyone reacted strongly.
I tried to
But
keep
no one
myself
did, 'cause
as
it's not that big an
mysterious
issue.
as possible. It's true that the word orange itself was recorded like 200 years earlier than the color orange. So it's thought that we first get, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this, but naranga with a G from Sanskrit. This then develops into Persian with a like narang with a G still. Then going into Arabic to naranj with a J. And then you kind of have this evolving, it was like into pomme d'orange with a like orange with an E, and then becomes English orange without the bit in front of it. So that is sort of like how it developed. And we didn't start having the color orange until the fruit sort of arrived in Europe, which made its way there. It's originally spread to Europe by Islamic rule coming to southern Italy and to Spain in the Middle Ages. And then you sort of had this naranj sort of spreading, like going to Spain as naranja, going to Italy as arancia, and then going to French and English as more of an orange or orange without the N in front. But yeah, there are other like interesting things that then happened as well. So there was a time when sailors from Portugal brought nicer tasting oranges from China. And so in some languages, a synonym for orange is China apple. So like in Ukraine and the Netherlands, Sweden,
Appelsin.
Denmark.
Appelsinnen is the word
Yes.
for an orange in Norwegian.
Exactly. Yes. So that yeah, in a lot of countries, it's still there can be a name of China apple for an orange. So that was more in the 1500s again when orange first started arriving as a fruit. But yeah, going on to sort of the language of colours and stuff as well. So as Matthew was saying, that you often start with sort of light and dark. But most languages, most of the world's languages have far fewer basic colour terms than English and European languages do. So they may have a 3 or a 5 colour system, which is sort of the most common. So to have like the name for the yellow-red crossover is actually very linguistically quite rare.
Really?
And also something else to bear in mind is think of all the other colours we have named after fruits. So orange, I guess we have as kind of our most basic one, but you may also have peach, violet, lilac, maroon, apricot, burgundy, all these other colours that you're like, oh yeah.
That's where the bright colours in the natural world came from, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's a burgundy?
Oh, yeah.
So burgundy was wine, but the wine was from Burgundy, right? So would that be named
Burgundy
place as
grapes?
well?
Yeah, that. Okay.
Burgundy grapes,
cool.
yeah.
Nice.
But what came first, Burgundy the place or Burgundy the wine?
Yeah, we could be in an infinite loop at this point, which I love the idea of.
Yeah, in old English, we used to use yellow red. That's kind of, I might even spell it for you. I'm not sure if I'll pronounce it right because it kind of looks like geolurid, like a it's a G with a dot on it. EOLURE with a line across the top. AD. Yeah, and then Sanskrit may even go further back than that. It could come from Dravidian, which could be a meaning of fragrant. As we all know, oranges are very fragrant. Sometimes when witch hunting was a big thing, if you were a woman who ate oranges, you may have been framed as a witch because you were using oranges to, hide away your witchy smell because oranges are so fragrant and delicious. So yeah, definitely the fruit and definitely naranja before orange. And now for the mystery midsection. Just before we started the show, I gave everyone the following question.
How is it that koalas are able to sleep so comfortably in seemingly uncomfortable eucalyptus trees?
I then asked everyone to write down a fictional but reasonable sounding answer. I will now read out all of those answers with the real answer mixed in. Everyone will then get the chance to decide which answer they think is right. Answer numero uno. They be super high. Answer number 2. They sleep in a stack and take it in turns to be at the bottom of the pile.
Ah, classic. Yeah, I do that as well.
Number 3. Koala fur has a barbed inner layer, allowing them to lie flat on their backs, grip onto the tree, and dream pleasant koala dreams. Answer number 4. Koalas have developed hard cartilage along their backs. Over time, this becomes a groove that lets them wedge their bottoms into the fork of a tree. Answer number 5. Their fur is meshed so that uncomfortable protrusions can't reach their skin. What do we thought? What do we thought? What do we think?
I mean, every time someone comes back from Australia, they've got a bloody photo of a stack of koalas, haven't they?
Yeah.
Koala stacks.
So I'll go for that.
All right. That's one vote for
No, I'm
koala
not going to go for
stacks.
that.
No?
I'm pulling out.
Oh, I was going to write a list.
What do you think, James?
I'm going to go.
Should we speak at exactly the
Yeah,
same time?
I did that on purpose.
And then we'll try and say the same sentence.
Okay,
All right.
you've got to do your answer in just one word that sums up the answer.
No, so we speak at exactly the same time, right?
Okay. So my answer is the one about cartilage.
I'm going to go back grip.
Wait, which one was back grip?
Back grip was the one where,
They have a barbed
you know
inner
what?
layer.
as much fun as that game was, I didn't do the thinking beforehand, which is a bit of a problem. I'm going to go back grip, which was the layer of fur on the back that allowed like a grippy sort of
the barbed inner layer.
The barbed inner layer, yeah.
Not the one that doesn't allow them to feel it, the one that allows them to grip.
The grip one, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a grip, we've got a cartilage, is that right?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say
I was
anything.
cartilage.
You said cartilage.
But I will go for cartilage.
You will go for cartilage. Well. You two have chosen the facts. You have chosen a lie.
That was James's
It's my
lie,
lie.
There's your lie, James Hartley's lie.
Unbelievable stuff.
Oh, I was so close to victory with the koala stack. I thought, and you were like, oh yeah, koala stack, and I was like, Oh, don't look at him too much in case he gets onto the fact that it's yours. Well, it's like penguins in a huddle. It wouldn't be too dissimilar. Well done, everyone.
Right, I've got a question. And this is a guest question from Jay Bain. Why do we bandage wounds and attempt to stop swelling, even though our bodies have evolved for hundreds of thousands of years, specifically to do that when they're damaged?
But wouldn't we have used stuff from like the rainforest or whatever to bandage things as well? Wouldn't you have used like a long bit of grass? Would you have left a wound on its own?
Well, I'm just thinking about, what would a monkey do if it has a wound? Doesn't make itself a bandage, does it? Just
Good
deals
old
with it.
lick.
Do they lick their wounds?
Don't know. Dogs supposedly do, don't they?
They do.
Got to lick your wounds.
Yeah.
They do lick their wounds. There may be some science in that.
It's most of the time it's generally pretty good, but sometimes it can be horrendously bad.
Well, I was thinking that because dogs' mouths are generally full of a lot of bacteria. As in, I was reading an article because you see people
They have
sometimes.
fewer bacteria than human mouths. Dogs' mouths.
Is this true?
Yeah,
But it depends on which ones you got, right?
But it depends on what's your normal flora.
exactly. Yeah, that's weird.
And so, because I was reading an article about, sometimes you see people if they're on the seaside and they've got a small dog and they're letting their dog lick the ice cream and then they're licking their ice cream. And, it's like a thing. Sometimes people post it and it's funny. And that's actually like bad. As in,
Bad,
you
is
can
it?
get ill.
You ever had brown bread flavoured ice cream?
Oh, no, but I've heard good things.
Holy moly.
It's the best.
Sounds like a game changer.
It's so good. They sell it in a shop called Moody's in Dublin. Murphy's
Murphy's.
ice cream. That's it. Delicious. The question
Wounds.
was, about bandages.
Okay, so if we think about swelling and inflammation, you cut yourself or you sprain your ankle. Sometimes swelling is useful in that it promotes sort of leakage of plasma and white blood cells into the tissues, which might help to fight infection. The other thing that it does is by the buildup of fluid, it compresses nerves and causes pain. And the evolutionary benefit of that is that if you've got a painful ankle, you're not going to be walking on it, and you're going to allow time for that ligament or joint to heal. However, we are intelligent and we can do things like give people crutches, tell people to consciously not weight bear on their limb. And by doing that, we're negating the need to have that reflex. And so you can then treat the swelling with things like non-steroid and anti-inflammatory drugs, ice, cold compresses, and it's been shown that healing time is better. Well,
That's good.
Yeah.
Don't want
Yeah.
to swell. Yeah, getting rid of the swelling. And that's one, bandages.
so bandages in what sense? As in putting a bandage on a...
Why would you stop the bleeding when the bleeding wants to happen? I think this one, this one seems a bit more obvious, doesn't it? Because you don't really want the bleeding to happen, which is why you get all the scabbiness.
Prevent all your blood loss.
Yeah, so I mean, the body forms a scab, which is essentially sort of a mesh of fibrin and dead cells that form above it and form this sort of tough outer layer, which, does serves a purpose in that it prevents the sort of entry of
Gloop.
of nasty bugs and pathogens and so on.
But they're basically like armour as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're hard, they're tough. I mean, that's what makes them annoying. So you have a big wound over your knee or something like that. It's quite hard to bend your knee, isn't it? So that's why cyclists will often, if they've had a bit of road rash and they've come off their bike and on the Tour de France and they've got to keep competing, they will get into the shower and they'll take a wire brush to their leg and stop that scab forming because they don't want that scab. That is going to impair their cycling ability.
Wow. When you said it was like armour, I just imagined two knights like rocking up for battle, one all in like a really nice shiny suit of armour. And then Barry just pure scabs. Yeah.
But actually, scabs don't do a lot to help wound healing. And we know that keeping wounds moist means that they heal quicker.
What?
No.
Oh,
Yep.
so that sort of sweaty plaster you might be wearing is actually a useful thing.
Well, it depends. So a moist dressing is good if it's sterile, and so therefore needs to be changed regularly, and doesn't have anything that's going to irritate the wound. So all of these like antiseptic inbuilt plasters and so on are probably actually bad because they probably mean that the wound heals slower.
So you
But
just want like sort of a clean,
You want
fresh
like a
bandage.
clean, moist bit of gauze gently pressed over, and that will actually promote healing of the wound quicker than a scab.
Wow.
That's so useful.
So this kind of, because it's common knowledge, isn't it? People think, oh, you just leave them out in the open and the body does the rest. But actually, we have evolutionary adaptations, but sometimes we can outsmart them.
So, Josie, you got a question for us?
Hundreds of millions, if not billions, of birds are killed through human causes each year. How can we reduce this number?
Did you know that when birds are like finding their way, they don't like to travel across the sea because it's really scary for them a lot of the time because it's so just flat and featureless, and they like to look at things when they're traveling. And so loads of birds like migrating between Europe and Africa like way prefer to go over to Gibraltar. So every year there's just torrents of birds pouring over Gibraltar.
So all birds migrate via like, the nearest landmass, and they go from
Not all.
sort of landmass to landmass.
They prefer, like, birds migrate with stars, and like they choose like decent wind currents, and they use the magnetic field, and they use smells as well. It's thought there's like different gradients of different smells. It's quite amazing how that works. And James, you'll know more about this, about like the dynamics of the air and how the smells get stuck in like certain points in the air. And
I was just thinking, like, if you're a bird, like you're right about mountain ranges and wind currents and stuff like that, but just the fact that land heats up much quicker than sea. I imagine if you're close to the sea, you get a sort of a woof, you get your thermals, don't you, coming up? So that's got to be useful for them.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, presumably they can see Gibraltar, but they can't see like a random location in the middle of the sea. So they might not even like it that much more. It might just be like, oh, we know where that is.
Yeah,
Because I can
maybe.
see it right there.
Well, if you're a bird and you got a bit tired, I don't know, some of them can land on the sea, can't they? I guess.
Can't they? Yeah.
Seabirds, for instance.
So what else is killing the birds?
It's bloody cats, isn't it? No?
Do we definitely link
Cats
that as
do
human
kill
causes?
birds, don't they?
Okay, here's some
A lot.
figures. Totally unrelated to the question, but they're just like vaguely related. And I just looked them up quite recently. How many humans do you reckon are killed by sharks in unprovoked attacks each year?
1.
Like, 10.
Less than 10.
About 10.
Huh.
Bang on, James. And how many
Fantastic.
sharks do you reckon are killed by humans each year?
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally.
Oh, 1,000.
1,000?
I think more. 10,000.
James?
100,000.
100 million. Whoa.
100.
100
I didn't even know there were that many
million.
sharks.
Whoa.
It's a lot,
Yep.
isn't it?
What, by boats? Yeah.
Nets.
Yeah, like nets, trawling. Yep, about 100 million every single year.
So really, they're just trying to get their own back a little bit for the
You can blame them.
10 people.
Has anyone got an answer for that?
Yeah, of course.
Why are the birds dying?
So I looked at some numbers. Basically, I mean, no one has a clue at all, like the number of birds that die, but they've got like quite wide ranges of estimates for various methods of death. So go on, let's have a bit of a guess. You mentioned cats. Now that is
Yeah.
massively, that's a huge one. I won't reveal yet, but let's have a.
Can there be like pesticides or something on crops?
Yes, that is one of the ones that I have. Yes,
That is a good
it's a
one.
bloody good one. Nice work.
Because these are all like human causes or
Human causes, yeah,
owned animals.
Human
Like
causes,
livestock. Because cats are included. No.
Like
Yeah, 'cause
destruction,
it's all-
destruction of
Yeah,
habitat.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely.
Destruction of habitat, very good. Yeah. That is on there. In fact, that's
the classic
that's
one
by
that
far
you'd
the biggest
say.
one.
The classic one you'd say is aeroplanes, isn't it? But that's going to be
Planes
really small.
and wind turbines.
Wind turbines.
Really?
Yeah, lovely. Right, yeah, that's on there.
Does air pollution affect them if birds in a city?
I haven't got that. They probably
Yeah,
does.
because like if you have a pet parrot, then you can't use. Then you keep it in the kitchen. You can't use Teflon like frying pans, because Teflon is like loads of fluorine atoms just sticking up, which is why nothing wants to stick to it. But if you heat up the Teflon, then the fluorine kind of bits of it come off, and parrots have such sensitive lungs that they
Oh my gosh,
die.
why are we
I don't
using
think you
it?
should ever. There's no like. You should never have a house bird. Do you know what I mean?
It's sad, isn't
It
it?
is mean. No,
Yeah.
they want to be flying.
The thing I always feel bad about is
They
they
like
just
flying.
live so long. They live like 80 years, some of them, don't they?
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these parrots live such a long time, and it's like, well, what will it do when the family dies? When it's still
Hopefully
just
fly
saying all
away.
the family catchphrases.
Yeah.
A family friend had a parrot, and one of the things it would imitate was the sound of opening a bottle of wine and it glugging. It's like, how many times have you heard that? Like, more than any other words. It's fantastic.
It's a real dark reveal.
Yeah, exactly. Stop doing it. So yeah, right. You've hit a few of them. It's nice. Wind turbines. This is in the States. I could only get stats for the States, but we can sort of apply that generally to other countries as well. So wind turbines. We're looking at 100,000 to 400,000 a year from wind turbines.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's birds. Yeah, so that's quite a lot.
That doesn't seem that big to me,
Doesn't
actually.
seem that, considering how many wind turbines and all that sort of stuff.
I wonder if birds are starting to get used to it and dodge them.
Well, the problem is, so it's particularly raptors, which are birds of prey.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that get got by it because they have these sort of super highways where they find a nice current and all of them just go roughly in that direction. And so it's often those sorts of, those guys. So there have been studies where they've tried to relocate the nests of various vultures in Spain. And that's actually massively helped. I mean, it reduced the number of deaths by half.
Because they always have similarly placed nests.
Because
So then-
it basically relocated them,
Yeah.
and so that was a good way. So I think a good way of doing it is just every time we build a bloody turbine farm, relocate the birds. Yeah, make sure it happens. So communication towers, it's a similar sort of thing. They just fly into stuff. We've
Do
got
they just get fried into those, or is it like sort of the smack?
yeah,
into
not
the-
so much fried actually. It's just a solid smack. Yeah, like sort of like a cheese wire.
Is it because of the gaps in the structure
think
that they
so.
they can't tell that there's a structure there?
I think that must be it, right?
Yeah.
And then off they go. So we've got that. Cars and lorries, we're looking at 60 to 80 million. Agriculture and pesticides.
What? Just running
60
birds
to 80
over?
million, that's many orders of magnitude higher than...
I don't think I've ever hit a bird in my car.
Yeah, no fine.
It happens quite a lot. I've seen it happen.
A lot of cars.
It's dark.
There's a lot of cars. So there's that. We've got agriculture and pesticides, like Josie mentioned. That's 67 to 90 million.
Wow.
Very difficult to quantify these numbers, of course, but
Wow.
that's a rough range that I reckon. Power lines, 100,000 to 175 million. That's the most ridiculous range of stats I've ever heard, so I'm going to ignore that. And you know what? Windows.
Oh.
Whoa.
I did. I was at home once, and a
Yeah.
blackbird just flew straight in and kind of did the comedy thing of sliding down. It did get
Yeah.
back up, but
So yeah, there's estimates up to $1 billion a year they reckon die from this because it just reflects what's outside and it can't react right at the end.
is
It's
that
very
even
sad.
worse with skyscrapers? I guess because they're getting higher into their territory.
I guess so. Yeah.
And skyscrapers are just sort of big hulks of glass as well.
Yeah.
these days.
Awful. And then cats. James, you're right. So that's sort of the top one, really. They're just
Really?
basically designed things for killing birds, aren't they? So yeah,
So many cats because of fumes.
because of the humes.
The bloody Humes.
But yeah, there's an interesting one, which was a certain type of fishing net. The old gill net is like you basically just have all these flotation devices, hang the net off it, and then have lead at the bottom so it hangs nicely. And all the fish swim through. And they basically choose the size of the net so that it traps the gills of that exact fish that they want to catch. So it's quite an old and cheap method of fishing. And so you tune it to your herring or something, and then everything that's bigger than a herring just bounces off of it, and everything that's smaller swims through it. That's the general idea. So they're pretty efficient, a pretty good way of fishing. But the problem is they trap birds because birds aren't as sort of sleek. And so you've got heads and wings and all this sort of stuff to trap into it.
Did I miss something?
Wait, birds underwater? Is this
Yeah, it's these diving birds. So seabirds that are diving around.
birds,
Yeah.
okay.
So, about 400,000 of those are killed every year, except someone's come up with, I think it was the University of Plymouth, it's come up, just put green LEDs along the net and it reduces the number of birds caught by 85%.
Why?
Wow.
Just because they avoid it.
What other things can we do?
Yeah, I don't know. What else can we do?
Get rid
What
of
personally
cats.
can we do?
Would you have a
The
house
thing is,
cat?
I mean, cats, they're just really good at it, aren't they? I mean, my sister had, I think it's dead now, had a cat that was missing a leg, and they put like this enormous bell on it to try and stop it. I mean, it was mainly for them, it was quite annoying finding a sort of half-eaten rabbit sort of deposited outside their young daughter's bedroom like every day. So they put this bell on it, and it would still hunt successfully. I was reading this thing, and there was this couple in America who were bird lovers but cat lovers, and they had this conundrum, and they designed what can only be described as a kind of like Elizabethan ruff, like that you put on the collar of the cat that's brightly coloured. That it's just so
It looks like a dinosaur trying to mate. And the birds are like, oh, I remember this. This was back from millions
well,
of
they
years
can't.
ago.
The birds, they see them coming. It's like and they're genuinely marketing it as like a stop your cats killing birds product.
I also like the sort of like the byproduct of that you then have a slightly more fashionable cat.
Yeah.
Like you could have like a whole number of patterns like on your Elizabethan ruff for your cat.
Yeah, if you particularly like sparrows.
Put LEDs in, the more fancy ones you got.
So there we go. Oh yeah, another thing you can do, just hang stuff out your windows, yeah? Just little bits of dangly stuff, whether that's, I don't know, whatever you think.
Like a wind chime.
Because it breaks
so-
up the
yeah, yeah,
reflection.
yeah.
So they go, oh wait, that's a thing. I'm not going to fly into this thing
Yeah.
that's going to kill me. So let's do that, yeah?
Just
Thanks
do
for
away-
the tips.
Do away with
all right.
windows. Do away with cats. Do away with wind.
Yeah.
Do away with birds.
Do away with it all, yeah.
Save the problem, innit? Save the conundrum.
Bring on the Elizabethan cats.
And we have arrived at the end. Points have been allocated by our producer, Sam Lee, according to a system that none of us understands. Sam, what's the verdict?
Well, striving as we all are for invisibility this week in the tradition of the mimic octopus, I've been giving you all points based on how well I think your clothes camouflage against the purple tablecloth upon which we're recording today's episode of A Piece of String.
Wait, why are we striving for visibility? And also, is the tablecloth purple? Is it purple?
Yeah,
Purpley blue. Yeah.
There's elements,
I'd say,
Solid blue to me. Sorry, Sam. Carry on.
yeah, I'd call that a purple.
It's
But
like white dress, blue dress gate all over again.
well, anyway, Josie, your tropical leafy print attire would be perfect in a rainforest environment, but slightly betrays your position against the table, unfortunately.
My natural habitat.
James Hartley, white shirt, pretty good against the white walls of the studio, but not so great a choice against the purple. Matthew, you were almost there with the dark grey of your dinosaur t-shirt, but this week it's James Wells romping home with a sort of denim-looking shirt thing, helping you to slip into anonymity.
Brilliant stuff.
First place, and enjoy getting up to whatever misdemeanors you fancy, now that no one can tell where you are.
No, honestly, congratulations, James. A really good
I've
work.
been working on it for a couple of years now, and today's the day.
Finding the perfect quasi denim.
For now, thanks to Josie Peters,
Thank you.
James Wells,
Thank you.
James Hartley,
Thank you very much.
Matthew Shribman, that's me, our producer, Sam Lee, and to Unbound for their generosity in hosting and supporting us. You can follow us on social media by searching A Piece of String or String Podcast.
If you would like to learn more about astrophysics and astronomy, you can find me on Twitter and YouTube as Josie A. Peters.
Well, if you'd like to learn about many and various scientific curiosities from a man in a bath or otherwise located, you can follow me on social media by searching Science in the Bath or Matthew Shribman.
And if you have a quirky question of your own that you'd like a scientific answer for, then please reach out to us on any of our social media channels.
Thanks for listening. Please rate and review us. We'd love to hear what you think. And we'll be back again in a fortnight. And as usual, let's never speak of any of this ever again.